My mother didn't send a first-class ticket to Aspen because she missed me. She sent it because she needed a sacrificial lamb to slaughter. I'm Jasmine. I'm 30 years old, and as a forensic auditor, I spend 60 hours a week untangling the spiderwebs that white-collar criminals weave to hide their greed. I've stared down hedge fund looters and offshore tax evaders without blinking. Yet, I was naive enough to think that home for the holidays actually meant hot cocoa and a truce. The blizzard outside was a white wall of chaos, but the atmosphere inside the foyer was chillingly surgical. I stepped onto the marble floor, shaking the frost from my wool coat, clutching a vintage bottle of Bordeaux I'd bought to soften the edge of a decade of silence. I expected a hug. Instead, I heard the heavy thud of the mahogany front door closing. That my father, Marcus, didn't greet me. He just slid the heavy deadbolt home, the metallic click echoing off the high ceilings like handcuffs locking. He pocketed the key with a smirk that didn't reach his eyes. Across the room, my mother, Eleanor, sat at the head of the table. No, hello, no, how was the flight? She just tapped a thick stack of legal papers. Sign them, Jasmine, she whispered, her voice a practiced tremolo of fake desperation. Sign the confession of debt, or we all go under. They thought they'd trapped a frightened girl. They forgot they'd locked themselves in with the woman who already owned their paper trail that I didn't move. I didn't reach for the papers. I just set the wine bottle down on the table with a soft, deliberate thud that seemed to vibrate through the wood. The silence in the room was thick, tasting of old secrets and new betrayals. My brother, Leo, stepped out from the shadows of the hallway, leaning against the doorframe. He wasn't wearing a Christmas sweater, he was wearing a look of hungry entitlement, idly tossing a heavy brass paperweight from hand to hand. Don't be difficult, sis, Leo said, his voice oily. You've got the big firm's salary. We've got the collectors at the door. It's basic math. I looked at the document Eleanor was pushing toward me. It wasn't just a request for help, it was an admission of liability. They had forged my name on 3 high-interest business loans to fund Leo's failed tech startup, and now that the grace period had evaporated, they needed me to legally adopt the fraud so they could stay out of prison. You stole my credit profile when I was 21, I said, my voice coming out as a level, dangerous hum. I spent 5 years cleaning that up. And now you've brought me here to sign a digital death warrant? Eleanor leaned forward, her eyes brimming with those well-rehearsed, crystalline tears. We did it for the family, Jasmine. You were always the strong one. You owe us for the life we gave you. The life you gave me? I laughed, a sharp, jagged sound that cut through her performance. You gave me a masterclass in embezzlement. And today, I'm giving you the final exam. I didn't reach for their pen. Instead, I reached into my briefcase and pulled out my laptop, the sleek silver casing reflecting the orange glow of the fireplace. Marcus let out a dry, hacking laugh. You think a spreadsheet is going to unlock that door, Jasmine? You're not in a boardroom now. You're right, Dad, I said, my fingers flying across the keys with a rhythmic, mechanical precision. I'm in a crime scene. And I've been processing the evidence since I landed. I turned the screen around. It wasn't a bank statement. It was a digital map of a series of shell companies, Maple Leaf Holdings, and Snowcap Ventures, all registered to this address. Leo's face went from smug to a sickly shade of gray. I didn't just come here to drink wine, I whispered, the cold clarity of my profession settling over me. I've been tracking the theft by deception patterns on my personal accounts for months. I knew you'd used my identity, but I wanted to see where the money went. It didn't go to a startup, Leo. It went into a structured insurance scam. I scrolled down to a high-resolution photo of a property in Florida that had accidentally burned down 6 months ago. The same property Eleanor had claimed was her nest egg. You filed a $400,000 claim for artistic assets that never existed, I said, locking eyes with my mother. That's wire fraud. And because you used my hacked social security number to verify the claim, you didn't just steal my money, you tried to make me your co-conspirator. The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. I wasn't the daughter they could guilt trip anymore. I was the auditor who had just uncovered the fuse they'd been lighting. Marcus didn't scream. He didn't rush me. He simply walked over to the landline on the wall and ripped the cord from the jack with a slow, violent jerk. Then, he picked up the brass paperweight Leo had been tossing and weighed it in his hand like a club. The family reunion mask didn't just slip, it shattered. You think you're so smart with your screens and your data, Marcus growled, his shadow stretching long and jagged across the mahogany table. But out here, in a blizzard, data doesn't breathe. We have the papers. We have the locks. And we have all night to make sure you accidentally fall down those cellar stairs. Leo moved to block my path to the briefcase, his eyes darting toward my laptop. Just delete it, Jazz, delete the files, sign the admission, and maybe we let you catch a flight tomorrow. Otherwise, nobody even knows you made it to the house. I didn't flinch. I didn't even close my laptop. I just tapped the spacebar. You're right about one thing, Dad, I said, my voice as steady as a heartbeat. Data doesn't breathe. It broadcasts. You've been so busy playing the tough guy that you forgot I work for an insurance conglomerate with a high-risk security protocol. I pointed to the blinking green light on the bezel of my laptop. This isn't just a hard drive. It's a live uplink. Every word spoken in this room, every forged document you showed me, and the exact GPS coordinates of that deadbolt have been streaming to my firm's legal compliance server for the last 20 minutes. If my biometric pulse doesn't check in with the server in exactly 60 seconds, then a dead man's switch triggers an automatic filing with the FBI and the state police. I leaned back, crossing my arms. The board didn't just flip, Marcus. I took the board home with me. The digital clock on my screen hit 0. For a heartbeat, the house was silent, save for the crackle of the fire and the frantic sound of Eleanor trying to shred the legal documents with her bare hands. Then, the night was swallowed by a roar. Not the wind, but the rhythmic thrum of a helicopter and the piercing wail of sirens cutting through the snow. Blue and red lights strobed against the frosted windows, turning the living room into a surreal, pulsing crime scene. Marcus dropped the paperweight, the heavy brass thudding onto the rug, the sound of a man realizing his leverage had turned into a noose. The front door didn't just open, it was breached. State troopers swarmed the foyer, their boots tracking slush across the marble. I didn't have to say a word. I simply pointed to the laptop. The audio logs and the GPS-stamped recording of the extortion are on the cloud. My firm has already forwarded the wire fraud evidence to the district attorney. As the zip ties clicked shut around Leo's wrists, he looked at me, his face twisted with a pathetic, desperate rage. We're family, Jasmine. How could you do this? I stood up, closing my laptop with a definitive snap. Family is a safety net, Leo. You turned it into a snare. I didn't do this to you, I just audited the choices you made. I watched from the porch as they were loaded into separate squad cars, their holiday retreat ending in a caravan of shame. I didn't feel sadness. I felt the clean, cold relief of a balanced ledger. I had paid their debts for years, but tonight, the account was finally closed.